Well, we're the Williams family, nicknamed the Weasters. I'm Dr. Kevin Pee Wee Williams, and I finished FAMU in 1995 in criminal justice. And I was on the yard from 90 to 95.
And I am Dr. Shamita Williams. I attended Florida A&M University from 1993 to 1998. I was a biology pre-medicine major with minors in chemistry and in psychology.
Okay, so we can see how you got the doctor behind your name just by those majors. So let's just start off by telling us how you met.
Well,
These are always funny to me because usually one person has a slightly different version than the other person.
Well, I was on my first senior year at FAMU, and Shamita was a freshman. And I think I saw her a couple of weeks prior, but she was way far away and I couldn't get to her. And I kind of noted to myself, I was like, she might be the prettiest freshman that came in 93. Not that I was looking for a freshman, but I just kind of noticed it. But I was riding in the car with I was driving my car, and one of my frat brothers was in the car, and he was like, you see that young lady over there? And it was Shamita. And so I pulled up on her and, started talking to her and asking, did she want to connect? And according to her, I'll let her tell her side of it, but we met right in front of McGuinn Hall, which is now actually been torn down now, but we did get a couple of pictures there since being married, and made it a point to take our son and take a picture over there as well. But that's when we met, her freshman year and my fourth year at FAMU.
Yeah, so we were coming, it was a girlfriend and I, we were coming from the grocery store and we were walking through the parking lot. So as he was driving through the parking lot, he pulled over and said something and I couldn't understand what he was saying. So I walked closer to the car and then he still was mumbling something. And I to this day call it his Atlanta language.
College Park. I was talking College Park.
And he will say he did that on purpose to get me to
get a little closer
for that very reason. But we did exchange numbers at that point, and I just thought it was so funny the way he pulled up in the middle of the parking lot with us carrying groceries into the dorms. That when we came into the dorms, that I exclaimed, "Oh yeah, this place is so crazy! I just met my husband out in the parking lot."
What? Okay, I don't think I ever heard that part.
Being sarcastic.
Look at God, right? Okay, so you saw her across the yard, then you had the opportunity to meet her in front of the dorm, and she jokingly said that was her husband, but it ended up, of course, being the actual truth. Tell me about your first date. Like, how did that happen? Who called who up? What was the process?
Oh my gosh. So I'll have to tell you a little bit about a date that didn't happen first. I tried to get her to come visit me at my frat house. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And she grew up in Miami with one of our past grand bosses, used to be kind of like her play uncle. So he told her, when she first got to school, don't go down to any frat houses. So she said no, she wasn't going to come down to that frat house. And then I offered to pick her up on the side of the dorms. But she asked me, why won't you pick me up from the front part of the dorm? And then we got to talking and she asked did I have a girlfriend? And I said, yes, I have a girlfriend. So she was like, I came from Miami. I'm not going to get in any drama. I'm not I'm gonna not talk to you while you have a girlfriend. But the Megas, we used to have a weekly party, real big party called Wicked Wednesday. And we would pick people up from the dorms to take them to the party. And this was probably about a month later, or about 3 weeks later. I asked, could I pick her up? and she jumped in the car with like 7 girls. I had a Jeep Cherokee. She jumped in the car with 7 girls to get a ride. It wasn't considered a date.
Yeah, I had put him in the friend zone since he had a girlfriend.
Yeah, it wasn't considered a date, but by the end of the night, we were slow dragging. So I guess that was technically our first date.
Okay, so Shamita, you listen to this story. Clearly a very smart woman. Listening to, don't hang out at the frat house freshman year. Why are you not trying to pick me up from the front? Very smart, very smart. If you had a daughter, I'm sure you'd be telling her those exact same things to do. But is that what you consider to be your first date?
Not really. After that, then he did invite me on a real kind of double date. We went out with one of his fraternity brothers and their girlfriends. We went to the movies. That was what I would consider our first real date.
Okay. And by then you had gotten past the girlfriend conversation.
Well, the timing was perfect because the girlfriend and I were having some issues anyway, and so she ended up breaking up with me. So it was an opening there.
Okay. Okay.
Of, my availability.
All righty. And so you mentioned you being a member of Omega Psi Phi, to me, because I know you all. You can tell about your organization. Did that play any role in your relationship at all? You all both being members of fraternity and sorority?
Well, at that time, yeah, that was my freshman year when we met. So
yeah, so
I did have an interest in an organization. Like he said, my play uncle, which was one of my best friends, who was my roommate at that time. Her mother was a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And as a teenager, she had us involved with the Delta debutantes and rites of passage ceremonies in Miami, sponsored by the Miami alumni chapter, called the Arita ceremony, where, in our 11th grade year, we were doing all these different activities. We had a mentor through the organization. We did college tours. So that was the organization that I saw and had a lot of involvement with prior to college. And so that was the organization I developed a further interest in.
But we I made the fraternity 5 years prior to her making it. So I graduated in 95 and she actually pledged at Beta Alpha at FAMU in 96.
Mm-hmm.
So I pledged in 91. So a large part of our relationship, she would, come around me as we were throwing all of these events and doing a lot of community service. She would always be there, and the bros kind of took her in, pretty early on. I think a lot of people saw that we were pretty serious pretty quickly. My brother, who she got to meet at homecoming, we met in 93. She met my brother that same fall for homecoming. And a month later, he was shot and killed in Atlanta. And that was a year after my best friend was shot and killed when that's that prior summer. So she got to know my frat brothers really well because she brought all my clothes. I left with the clothes I had on my back, and she actually was at my apartment when I got the news, when they came to pick me up from the hospital to take me back to Atlanta. So she got to know the bros really well because she worked with the bros to make sure that they talked to my professors, and she packed all my clothes up and brought it a week later in time enough for the funeral, and met my whole side of the family, and my whole chapter came down. So the bros were the frat in general, and particularly the Upsilon side fam, was very involved in terms of supporting me when I returned back to school a week and a half after my brother's death, and being in touch with Shamita and, them worried about my, my well-being and how I was going to react, and making sure that I still could lock back in and focus and be able to graduate. So
it sounds clearly you all got serious pretty quickly. Can you tell me when it was you both realized that this was the person, other than that first parking lot meetup?
I think around spring break of that first 93, 94 year, after we had been through those kind of life changes together, because he did not tell you that my grandmother lived in Tallahassee as well.
Even though she was from Jamaica.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because my aunt went to graduate school in Tallahassee at Florida A&M. So I'm a second generation Rattler. And so they were living there at the time, and she passed away that January as well. So he got to meet a lot of my side of the family. And so just those melding, how we handled those kind of situations, if we could handle that so early in life, we felt we could do anything together.
Yeah. Yeah. And she literally had to stay with me after I returned. This was in January 94 when my brother was shot and killed. She literally had to stay with me almost every evening because I was waking up, having crazy dreams, all that kind of stuff. So, to meet her grandmother, basically, who just happened to be living in Tallahassee after living in Jamaica pretty much all her life. I got a chance to talk to her before she passed away, and she kind of gave me some instructions. She must have saw something there too. And so when she passed away, my mother-in-law and my two brother-in-laws came in town from Miami for the service, and I got to meet them. And her grandmother was on her father's side. He came from Jamaica a day before she passed and spent some time with us. So I got to meet both sides of her family, within us getting together in October of 93. We both have met both sides of our family because, as all my Cleveland folks came down to Atlanta for the funeral for my brother. And so she met all of them, and people were going up to her saying, you all need to wait until y'all graduate before y'all get married.
We hadn't even thought that far.
Yeah.
We were just trying to be seriously dating at that point.
Yeah, people were seeing things also, they were seeing that too. And, I knew I had a queen for her to be able to hold me down when I got back to school and be there for me when I went through all of that dramatic stuff, because, that kind of stuff could take you out. Clearly. So.
Definitely. So let's fast forward just a teeny bit. So you've already spoken about you graduated 95, you're coming in, you came in 93. Fast forward a little bit to when you decided to make this an not official relationship, but when you decided, okay, I'm going to marry this woman, and she's still in school. So what comes next?
Yeah. So we were a very unique situation because we were very intentional once we knew that we were going to be together, very intentional on kind of getting our families prepared. So what we started doing was we decided after, I think, that first Christmas, we got together in October. After that Christmas, we decided we weren't going to do any holidays away, that we would start rotating. Even when we were just going together, we started rotating locations in terms of, like, we would go to Miami for Thanksgiving or Atlanta for Christmas, or vice versa, to see our family. And so we were very intentional about that. We kind of knew that. So we started to set that up. We started also, when I graduated that spring of 95, I went over to Jamaica with her and got a chance to meet, a lot of my future family members and in-laws and things of that sort. And when we got back from that summer, we were taking a class together. She stayed at my mother's house in College Park. My mom made us stay on separate floors.
Of course.
But we were taking a course at the church. And then I proposed to her before the summer ended. And then we started premarital counseling right away. So we even were doing premarital counseling long distance. So we were engaged 3.5 years because she still, we had made a promise that we were going to let her finish. And so a lot of when I finished in 95, I came down, I moved back to Atlanta, College Park, and attended Morehouse School of Medicine for my master's. So after I defended my thesis, and then she graduated that same month, we had our wedding that June, the month after that. So yeah, so we were together 5 years prior to getting married.
Mm-hmm. And we were doing Zoom, kind of like virtual relationship counseling, because our pastor did telephone visits. So we
Okay. The head
went-
curve there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we did our premarital counseling that way, since we were all long distance.
Yeah. Yep. And we also would do we watch the same church service, and we're doing those kind of things. So we're trying to do the things that we would have done if we would have not been long distance. So
Okay.
the long distance really started in 95. So we got together in 93. And the unique thing is we never broke up. We never broke up. When we got together in 93, we never, as girlfriend and boyfriend, we never broke up. And it just continued on. So.
Okay. So what's homecoming like? What was it, when you first got started off, and then now, what's homecoming like as a couple?
Well, I'm gonna talk a little bit, then I'm gonna pass. I don't want to be the one running my mouth the most. Well, she's used to it, I guess. But one of the cool things about homecoming is, first of all, we both feel a void if we don't make our homecoming. It's very rare that we miss homecoming. I think we could probably have it on one finger. One hand, I should say. One hand, we can count how many times we've missed FAMU's homecoming. It's very important to us. Most homecomings, we're able to do everything together, but because we did pledge 5 years apart, our anniversaries, we both pledged in the fall. So our anniversary, when we have our milestone anniversaries, we may not see each other as much that particular homecoming, because she's out doing her activities and I'm doing my activities. But for the most part, we tackle homecoming. We kind of are together the whole homecoming. We do a couple of little separate things with our fraternities and sororities, but other than that, we homecoming is just really nice. And of course, we're going to get to this, but an added bonus now is that our son is now a sophomore at Florida A&M. So going there and his first homecoming, he opens up for little baby 10,000 people. It was incredible. So we were backstage with him the whole time. So it was just really a surreal, full circle moment to see him hit the stage and and he made sure that he had us with us. He could have been, how young people are, but he was adamant about us being around and being with them before he hit the stage. So that was a very powerful moment, with our homecoming, I would say.
Yes, definitely.
So you're talking about an HBCU legacy here. So I heard Shamita mentioned that she had family that had already gone to FAMU before she got there. So is there any more of a HBCU legacy in your families?
Oh yeah. So Dakari, our son Dakari Barak Williams, artist name DKOMX. He's actually a 4th generation college student. My grandfather on my dad's side went to Morehouse College, and he was a professor at Morehouse. His name is Dr. E.B. Williams, or Edward Buchanan Williams. He was a professor at Morehouse for almost 35, 40 years. His wife, my grandmother, Beatrice Williams, taught at Spelman for 20 years. And at one point, my grandfather was over the School of Business division in terms of economics and business. He was over that, I guess they didn't call it a department, but wing of the university of the college at Morehouse. And at one point in time, he had trained more Black MBAs than anybody else in the country. And he was a professor under Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays. And so he really set the tone. He had 3 boys. All 3 of his boys went to Morehouse. my dad being the youngest, but the oldest had 3 boys. The oldest son had 3 boys. All 3 of them went to Morehouse. The middle son, his son was my age. He went to Morehouse. And I'm the one who got us going over to FAMU with the tradition. I have 3 learning disabilities, and at the time, Morehouse didn't have anything to support. They didn't have a program that supported students with learning disabilities, and FAM has one of the top ones in the country still. So that was my move in terms of going off to FAM. And then the other middle son's youngest, the middle, I guess my uncle, his youngest son decided to go to FAM too. He was a #1 tennis player in the state of Georgia, going to an Atlanta public school. And he decided to follow me to FAM some years later. He would have been graduating with my brother would have been in his graduating class. And then my dad, the youngest, he had me. My brother was killed his senior year, and he actually did have, acceptance letters from, most HBCUs, and was considering there was a chance that he was going to get drafted in baseball. So I'm sure he would have followed the tradition. And also I meant to mention that my grandmother, she went to Fisk University. So it's, all the males either went to FAMU in my family or Morehouse. So, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Because even on your wall behind you, in addition to FAMU, I see you have Lincoln, you have West Virginia State. So it's always promoting not just your own alma mater, but other HBCUs as well, which is always a great thing. So we can get more of our young people learning about our colleges and attending them, whether it's, I'm a graduate of Howard, whether it's Howard or another school. I have a senior right now too, and we're going through this whole process.
Yes.
He's gotten accepted to over, I think 33 HBCUs. He just got his Morehouse acceptance. So
congratulations.
Thank you. We're going to be making those decisions soon too, but it's always HBCU love, in our family. So I love to see it.
I meant to tell you that also, Shamita went to Meharry for medical school. My dad went to Meharry. My uncle went to Howard for dental school. So, even at the professional, and I went to Morehouse School of Medicine for my MPH. So the opportunity to even go to HBCU at the professional level was amazing as well. Mm-hmm. So I hope our kids keep that in. Yes. Whenever I hear a kid say they applied for medical school or dental school, I always ask them, have they applied for our HBCUs that offer that first?
Right. Most definitely. We gotta raise them, steer them in that right direction. Right. If we don't push them, other people will not, and they won't hear it. So we have to make sure we're doing our job. So that steers us over to, how do you all support Florida A&M? Now that you've graduated, Florida A&M has clearly been a huge part of your lives, not just from a professional standpoint, because you two are very successful in your professional careers, and obviously in your relationship, and you have a son that's there now. But what else? How does FAMU still continue to play a role in your lives outside of going to homecoming? Because we all go to homecoming.
So we are very active in our alumni chapter. And in that vein, we started a Middle Georgia chapter here. So we did not have a chapter in the Macon, Middle Georgia area. And so what is it, like 5 years now?
Yeah, we're coming up on our 5th year anniversary of being a chartered. I'm actually the founding president of the particular chapter, and Shamita is our chaplain, of the chapter. So we're very active, recruiting. Prior to bringing a chapter here, though, my mom and I were very active in working with kids in the Atlanta metro area that had disabilities, and explaining to them the programs that FAMU offered students with learning disabilities. And I also say Clark has a really good reputation and program in Tennessee State. In terms of our HBCUs that I know about that have really good program support people with disabilities. So, I'd say my mom and I probably recruited 17, 18 or so people through the years that have finished FAMU going through the program that supports people with, it's called CEDAR now, that supports students with disabilities. So we've been very active with our alumni. We've been blessed that our chapter has had the presidential tour come here 3 different times to the Middle Georgia area. And it's really awesome. They bring all of the SGA, the president comes and speaks, and we have a performing arts group called the FAMU Connection that performs and gets the students excited about applying to FAMU. So we try to find the brightest young people from the Middle Georgia area, you know, to be a part of it. And I'm also a part of a HBCU Arts Series Alliance with our Douglas Theater, which is the 100-year-old theater named after African American. And we have a $5,000 scholarship we give now through that organization. So I'm representing FAMU, our chapter on that. So yeah, we're pretty, you know, I would say we're pretty active.
Very good. I love it. I love it. So we're going to wrap up. I thank you for taking time out. I think, you know, I've known part of your story, but it's always good to hear the other details that go into it and how it came to be. And of course, sharing your love, not only for each other, which is Black love is beautiful, but also to hear your love for Florida A&M and that you're passing it on to others, including your own child, because that really says a lot when you're willing to not only tell other people about it, but also commit your own child to the school, which shows that you truly believe in what happens on that campus and what they're doing. So
put that money where our mouth is.
Yeah, exactly. And your child, you know, that's the most precious thing that we have in the world. So we're willing to put our child there. That shows that we have a level of trust in it, and you truly believe in the mission of Florida A&M and in HBCUs. So thank you again for telling your story, and I will talk to you later.